My name is Wendy Finch, and I'm the marketing manager here at the PPI Group. And I'm thrilled to have everybody on the call or on the presentation today. So go ahead and dive right into today's presentation. Very fortunate to have Bluebeam Application Specialist Meredith Jung with us, and she's going to walk us through the Bluebeam Studio platform. So we might as well just kick it off here, Meredith. So thanks for joining us, and looking forward to your presentation.
And thank you so much, Wendy, for having us, and of course to the PPI Group as a whole for hosting this webinar for you guys. As Wendy mentioned, my name is Meredith Jung. I'm an application specialist here at Bluebeam. I actually come out of the consulting portion of the AEC industry, did quite a bit of work speccing and installing audiovisual systems. And today when we talk about digital collaboration, we're going to be talking about how you really communicate better with all the trades across your projects so that you're not bringing people into the project too late with timelines that are too short and budgets that just don't cut it when you realize that you've already put the drywall in and you still have to run audio lines. Challenges I faced in the field and challenges I'm hoping that I can help you avoid using Bluebeam Review and using specifically the collaboration tools in the Bluebeam Studio platform. Okay, so as we go through today, we're going to be talking quite a bit about how collaboration works throughout the project life cycle. And to introduce it, we'll talk a little bit about where Bluebeam fits into all of the life cycle of a project and some of the numbers behind the product. What kinds of results are people like you seeing in the field? We'll then get into studio sessions and projects. We'll do a live demonstration of the real-time collaboration in sessions, as well as the document management capabilities of studio projects. After that, we'll get into Studio Prime, the newest product in the Studio platform that's really built to increase your efficiency, streamline a lot of the workflows that you do day to day, and give you additional administrative control over all of the users in your organization. So really giving the level of control and a level of flexibility to your collaboration. As Wendy mentioned, at the end, we'll open this up to questions, so do feel free to keep typing questions into the question window here in GoToWebinar, and we will get those all answered at the end. So let's get into this. As you know, the typical architecture, engineering, and construction project, right, the typical building that we create goes through quite a few steps, and Bluebeam strives to have tools that will help you streamline the workflows throughout the life of your project, from the start when you need to be doing your design reviews, straight through the process of bids and estimates, RFIs and submittals, going through field inspection, site management, punch and back check, and then closing it out, and not just closing it out on your side, but closing it out with the owner and giving them documents that can be used for years to come for facilities management. The PDF file format, which is what we're going to work with today and what gets worked on in a review in particular and in studio sessions and projects, really gives a lot of flexibility because it's a file format that is an ISO standard. So once you get your documents into the PDF file format, anyone can view them, anyone can mark them up with any PDF software, and anyone can be working on them. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and it's an archivable file format. So once you hand it over to the owner, you can hand it over digitally, they can archive it, they can secure it, and they can use it for years to come. PDF will be a format they can open until goodness knows when, but definitely for the long foreseeable future because it has that ISO standard for it. Now, here at Bluebeam, we really strive to help you do what you do better, and doing what you do better has helped enable the world's largest buildings to open their doors faster. You can track your projects up to 40% faster, speed up your project communication by up to 60%, and reduce your paper usage by more than 85%. And all of the tools that I'm going to show you today help in that in particular. And the goal ultimately is to help you take your projects paperless. Now with Bluebeam Review, the platform through which we are going to access the Studio platform, Bluebeam Review as a desktop application includes an intuitive interface, industry standard markups, an exclusive tool chest that allows you to save customized markups for easy reuse, a markups list which allows you to more easily track and manage the status of your projects, and Bluebeam Studio, which is what we'll focus on today. I will briefly touch on all of the other tools that you see here in relation to Studio. Now, when it comes to Studio, there are two ways that we work with Studio. The first is Studio Sessions, and that's PDF-based online collaboration. And that'll be the first thing that I demo for you today. So we'll go in and we will look at that online collaboration together. The other one, and that online collaboration is everybody working on the same PDF at the same time. Several of my colleagues will be joining me today, and you'll be able to see how we work together. The next one is Studio Projects, and this is a simple document management system in the cloud for PDFs and other files. So you're not limited to just working with PDFs. You can upload all of the files from your project and store them there, whether that's Word documents for specifications, field images that are JPEGs, maybe you've got DWGs or Revit files that you're storing up in the cloud. All of that can be stored within projects, and they're accessed on a checkout and check-in basis. You check it out, double-click, it opens in the host program, whether that's Review because it's a PDF or maybe AutoCAD for a DWG. You then can edit those PDFs and then check them back in. What's great about Studio Projects is that when you share files with others, you can set permissions on who gets to see what, and you can easily take any PDFs that you're storing in a project and put them up into a Studio session for a quick collaboration session and bring them back down to the project, which is your ultimate source of truth. Now finally, Projects has unlimited free space. So this is free storage in the cloud. It comes with every license of review that you buy. So you've got a lot of power for not a lot of money. So let's get into this and go into the fun stuff. And I here am in Review. Okay, so this is the Review interface. For those of you who haven't seen it before, just a quick introduction. It's broken into menus. Below the menus is a command bar, and below the command bar are toolbars. Now you'll notice as I click through the menus that my options in the command bar change. However, the toolbars do not. Those toolbars, as I come to view here, are controlled by the active profile. So if I click the little down arrow, you'll notice I've got some custom ones of my own, but there's a variety of built-in profiles here. And as I change, for example, to the punch profile, you'll notice I have a panel on the left that's opened. I've also got a panel on the right here, one on the bottom. But some different things have opened up. I can then change profiles again. I'm going to come into my construction profile. It's my preferred profile, has all of the tools that I need, and you'll notice that it's cleaned itself right up. Now, in addition to the features you see on the toolbars and the features you see in the menus, we also have this drop-down called Tab Access, and this unlocks additional functionality for us. Now, one of the options here is Studio. You probably also noticed that Studio is docked right up here on the command bar, and that's because Studio is one of the most used features in the software. And people who use it, when they use it, are using it every day. So if you use Studio, you're probably in there all the time. So here is my Studio's tab over here. And here in my Studio tab, I have Sessions and I have my projects. And you'll notice I've got some that I've hosted and some that I've attended. And Studio will track all of that information for you. Now, if you were just logging in, you'd be given the option here. If I sign out, you'll notice I've got this login option, type it in, and jump right into Studio. I'm going to start in Sessions because Sessions is an incredibly powerful tool that I really wish I had when I was an AV contractor. And the way that it works is Sessions is real-time PDF-based collaboration. So everybody's commenting on the same documents at the same time. And this would have been great for me because as I noticed issues in the field, I would have been able to put down what the issue was and then had someone on my team respond to it in real time. Okay? So what you're going to see here, and unfortunately, none of my colleagues have been able to join me right now, but we were in here previously, and that's what's great. We can all be in at the same time, or we can come in and out at different times. But what you'll notice here as I zoom in on this document is that we've been working on quite a few different things on this document, and several people have been marking it up, okay? So what we've got here, the baggage screening room, someone wanted to know the electrical requirements, and by someone, what I really mean, and I'm going to come into the markups list to show you who actually made that comment, and that was my colleague Brian Tomita on the electrical team, okay? He came through, was wondering about the electrical requirements there for the room. And what ended up happening is that Angela, who was also on that team, ended up putting in new specs in the project folder for updated requirements. I then went ahead and responded, letting them know that that was exactly what we needed, and was very happy that they had gone ahead and updated those based on a conversation that we had had previously. Now what you'll notice here with these comments is that my comment actually has these yellow points around it, and I can edit my comment as I need to. So I'm going to take this comment, and that's exactly what was needed for this project. Okay, so I now have a longer comment. Maybe I want to stretch that out, and I want to auto-size the text box. All of the markups that you see me use today here in review are completely customizable if you're not accustomed to the software. And when those comments are placed by me in a studio session, I can edit them however I want. And everything that I've done, so here's my comment, I moved it, I edited it, so I edited the text, I auto-sized the text box, and then I moved it a little more just so it was easier to read. All of the work that I've done has been tracked here in the record. So we've got a complete log of everything that I've done here. So that's the first layer of accountability. The second is that Angela knows that even when she's not around here, she doesn't have to worry about her comments being edited. You'll notice that all of those points over there are gray. I can double click this all I want. I can't change her text. I can't move it. I can't change even the size of the text box here. I can right click all I want, and you'll notice that all of these editing type options are gone. They're missing altogether. And that's because Studio Sessions is set up so that you have complete accountability, knowing that your comments can't be edited by anyone else, including the administrator. Notice I'm just going to head home. This is one of my sessions. So I host this. I'm the administrator of it. And yet I can't even change Angela's comments, which is a great layer of accountability for her. Now I mentioned the tracking. We've got tracking here on the right, and this is everything that's been done in this session, every note, every person who left or came to a session, every time a comment was added, edited, deleted, even when documents were uploaded. So all of this is being tracked for us. I've also got these ones that are chats. And what ends up happening is that every one of these markups is linked. So if I click here, excuse me, so if I click here, you'll notice Edit Electrical AV Wall Specs. I can see the view that Angela was in when she placed that comment on the page. Same thing as I jump down. Looks like there's an image in that room that was captured for that room, and I can see the view that I was in when I added that image to the page. Now here in the markups list, now the markups list also tracks these markups, but rather than tracking exactly when and where everything was placed and all of the edits, it tracks the most current information about that markup. So for example, here I've got the markup. This one's the architect, no AV requirements for the lobby. I see it right here. I can click on it and jump to it down here, or I can click through. And as I click through here, this is just for this page, and it jumps me to a very close-up view of that markup so that I can see it a little more easily there. Now within the markups list, we get a lot of opportunities to do additional tracking. And one of the things that I talked about as one of the benefits of using Review, besides speeding up our project communication by being able to comment on things and reply to things at the same time or in real time, because you'll notice here, this AV requirement for the room was placed on the 7th at 3:39. I got back to it at 11:32 on the 8th. So a pretty quick turnaround by all standards, and if we'd been online at the same time, we could have actually responded to each other in real time, which would have been really fast. But even with that, so we have the fast communication, but we also have faster project tracking. And part of that is in the way that we can track our markups. So one of the things that we can do is we can set statuses. So as I'm going through, no AV requirements for the lobby. So we've accepted that there are no AV requirements here. Okay, and there's a nice date and timestamp. And let's say that the project for the lobby was completed because there were no AV requirements for it. That completed its then set. It's got a new date and a new time set. Okay, and we can go ahead now and filter. Maybe we've got a couple more of these. Need more detail on this restoration. This is accepted, but it's not completed yet. Okay, and we've got some others here. Looks like a question about AV requirements for the room. Well, that's completed. I took care of that one, so I will mark that as completed. And looks like a GFI is required here. No one's responded to this one, so I'll say that's accepted. And now what we can do, we can sort by those statuses, so we can easily see what's been accepted but not completed and what jobs have been completed or what comments have already been responded to. Or we could even filter, so we can take out everything that's completed, and that way, or even better, we can just look at things that have been accepted but not completed, and we can quickly see, okay, these are the things that need to be worked on. Or we could just look at the things that don't have any statuses and jump through those. And you'll notice that the things without statuses, right, show up here in orange, and the ones that we filtered out show up in gray. So we get a lot of project tracking capabilities with these statuses, and we could even set custom statuses. So if you think about the punch and back check process, I'm going to go ahead and take off my filter here. I'm going to come in. I had some punch symbols I threw onto a document earlier. So you'll notice we've got a couple punch symbols, and those punch symbols, by the way, are built into the software. For those of you who haven't used it, just changing into my punch profile here. And what you'll notice here in the tool chest is where I save my recently used tools. So for example, here's that markup I just placed earlier. And I can place a new version of that with a new comment. Please fix this issue ASAP. Right? So I've got these tools here automatically there, but there's also built-in tools here. So not just my recent tools, I can save these tools into a tool set, or I can use a built-in tool like the punch keys here and just drop a note on the page. Now I actually don't know what DH stands for. I probably should have looked at that first. So let me go into the detail mode. DH stands for door hardware missing install. So that is not the right comment for that corner of the room, but it would be, let's say, if we were looking at the door hardware here. So I could look this up and then I could put that down on the page. Now one of the cool things that we see a lot of contractors doing with these comments on the page is they're actually creating custom statuses. So rather than using the built-in statuses that you see here, I'm just going to close this here. So we have these built-in statuses, right? Accepted, rejected, canceled, completed, none. Okay. What they're doing is actually before they upload the document to a studio session, they create some custom statuses. And those custom statuses allow them to change the color of the punch symbols. So rather than filtering and having some, the ones that are done be turned gray because it's filtered out, they'll actually have it so that when they change the status from, for example, incomplete to complete, that color changes from red to green. So it makes it very easy to see on the page. Now one of the final things that you probably noticed here with these columns, I've got a variety of built-in columns in the software. I also have a little custom column here for responsibility, and I can just type in someone's name to take care of this project. However, that being said, if I wanted to, those are also things that are created beforehand, and I upload before I upload the PDF to the studio session. And that way, I've got this information as additional information that we can track by. So when we talk about tracking projects faster, part of that is being able to assign responsibilities on the fly, whether it's during the design review process So we've reviewed the design for the day. We want to go ahead and assign who on the design team is responsible for fixing that in the original Revit file and then reprinting the file for the next day. I might close this session down after I've taken a summary here of the markups list that includes that responsibility column so that they can easily see, oh great, here's everything that I'm responsible for fixing today, and go through and fix it. A great opportunity there. Now coming back into Studio here on the right-hand side, right, I've got my attendees, my documents we've been working with. We've got our record down here that's tracked everything. You'll notice it tracked those statuses as well as I set them, everything that's going on here. The last thing is, how do we get this information out? Because at the end of the day, when I finish up this session and I close it off so that people can't get in and edit these documents anymore, I still need to be able to access all of this great data here in the record, because this is our meeting notes, right? Think about it. In design reviews, right, we all got together. We talked through all of the edits that we made to the plan, which were all done in red pen, so we never knew whose was whose. And someone in the room took notes of everything that we talked about. Why were they issues? What did we come to a consensus on? We've got all of our meeting notes right here in the record, already done for us. So let's go ahead and make a report of those meeting notes. So here we go. I'm going to create a PDF package report, and what it's going to do is it's going to take a copy of these PDFs exactly as they are at this very minute. It's going to save it into a PDF package, so it'll put it into one folder, and it's going to put a report into the other folder. I'm just going to use the default settings and click OK here. Save this to my desktop here, and I'm going to replace my previous report. So what you'll notice is that it's taking all those documents down. It is compiling all of our information into the record, and now it's popped up this report for us. So I have our documents in the folder, just as I mentioned, and I've got the report here. And it's got all of the people who worked on this with me, with their email addresses. It's got all of our documents. And best of all, it's got all of our markups, all of our edits, whether it was deleted or it stayed on the page. When I click on it, it's hyperlinked to the spot in that document and the view that the guy was in when he placed the markup. Verify width of circulation for egress. Okay. Same thing, I can just keep going through here and clicking on whatever I want and getting to that information. And it's all saved locally. I can put this now onto, for example, the network drive where we're archiving all of these documents. And it's very easy to see there. So a lot of great opportunities for us here within Studio Sessions. Now I have two final notes on Studio Sessions. The first is that Studio Sessions as a collaborative tool does have some additional functionality that you would see a little better if my colleagues had made it online. The first is this ability to alert attendees. So I can choose an attendee. For example, Brian asked about the AV requirement for that room. So I can let Brian know that there's no AV requirements for the lobby. Since he's offline, he's going to get an email. But if he were online, he might respond and then notify me, and I would end up with a notification here saying that Brian had notified me that there was a markup here on the page. Okay. The other one that we could be doing if Brian were on here is I could actually be following Brian. So there'd be a little pair of feet that would show up on the side. I would click on it and I would actually see his view. So if you're doing a collaboration session, maybe you've decided to include a conference call number so that everybody can call in. So you set up a conference call number with your preferred service. Everybody's on the line at the same time. Brian's like, I want to show you this very particular issue in the lobby. I have a question about it. I could then follow Brian. I could see where that issue was on his screen as we're talking about it over the phone or talking about it using the chat function in the record. So there's that chat function there, and you'll see at the bottom, here's my hello. And at that point, I could be seeing exactly what's going on his screen. The final thing I want to point out about Sessions, and Sessions really is just so fantastic. I wish I had this in my previous job, if only because I wish we'd been brought into a lot of these review processes a lot earlier. But even if we hadn't, just being able to communicate this real time and not marking things up on paper and then having the courier drive it back across town would have saved us a lot of time in terms of dealing with issues, maybe hopefully before the drywall went up so that we could get the wires run. But one of the great things here with sessions is that if we're on site and we're working on this on site, maybe it's a punch walk, maybe it's we're documenting field conditions and issues in the field, and we happen to lose our internet connection, there's no worry here because we can be working offline. And if I were to place a comment here, let me just pick another section here. So let's do thanks for the heads up. We'll add those to the plan, right? GFI outlets are required there. Perfect. Now you'll see in my pending, there's that comment. The minute I'm back online, we're all good to go. That comment has been updated and it shows up in the record. So even if we don't have an internet connection, we can collaborate. I can't stress enough how much I love studio sessions. So let's go home. Let's get out of the real-time collaboration work and let's get into a little bit of the document management kind of work. And we're going to spend a bit of time in projects because there's a lot of cool things that we can do in projects with Studio Prime. So we'll spend more time in projects once we get into Studio Prime. But for now, I'm going to get into my airport expansion project here. And what you're going to notice is I've got quite a few files here in my airport expansion project. I've got all of my field reports, all of the lovely images that we've taken out in the field, all of my RFIs closed and opened. I have my RFI log. It's all hyperlinked to these files here in the cloud. All of my sheets are uploaded here so I can come in and access any of my architectural sheets that I'm looking at. I've even got one checked out that I've previously been working on. And because it's checked out, I can place comments on it. Okay. So I've got, for example, this one's checked in, and you'll notice as I come to my markup tools, they're all grayed out. And as I come into my tool chest, right, because I've been using these tools, you'll notice that I can't actually place any markups on the page. But as soon as I were to right-click here and check it out, okay, as soon as I were to check that out, I'd be able to edit it like I can this A1.2.1. So here's my A1.2.1 file. I've got some open and closed RFIs here, and by the way, those are hyperlinked, so if I click on the link, you'll notice there's that closed RFI and the open RFI, all of which are great to do in the cloud. Here's a comment someone placed to change elevator 4 to a freight elevator, which would be pretty useful. So let's go ahead and say, great, I'll get the team on that now. Okay. Now this is not real time, this is me working on this individually. If someone else wanted to work on this document, they would have to wait until I checked it in. But the minute I checked it in, they'd be able to work with it. So I responded to comment about freight elevator. And with that, this is now up in the cloud for everyone to see. So it's been checked in. You'll notice it's got a little lock mark by it now, so we've locked it up. And if I come into the revision history here, what you'll notice is we've got a variety of different revisions. And at any point, I can look at a previous revision. So let's open that previous revision. And notice that my new comment's not on it in blue. But if I were to go back to the original, you would see that blue comment there. I could also restore a previous revision. So there's a lot of control that I have here over documents. And this works not just on PDFs, but this works here on, for example, my Word specifications. So I've got quite a few Word documents here. At any point, I could check any one of these documents out, double-click to open it in Word, edit it in Word, and check it back in. Really powerful stuff here. Now, where this gets really cool, and where the value of projects is sometimes over a session, besides having unlimited storage and being able to store all our file types, is the kind of control that we get over this. So, for example, here in my settings, as I open them up, and there are user settings in sessions that restrict basic things like can someone access my session or can someone edit documents in my session or add new documents to my session. Here in projects we've got a little bit more. So this user access you see here, this matches perfectly with sessions. Restrict users here is how I restrict people who are not invited to this session or not included on this user access list from accessing, this project, from accessing my project. And the same thing with the session. I've got my session restricted only to users that I either allow or invite into the project. Now the permissions here, the permissions in projects are admin level permissions. In sessions, they're a little more generic, but you'll see that they've got some great options here. But where the settings really get cool is here in these folder settings. So we can set permissions for individual folders. So here my project root, anyone who comes into this project currently can look at files and check them out and edit them. That's the read-write opportunity. Let's say, for example, though, that I don't want most people to see the RFIs, or specifically, I don't want my colleague Amy to see those RFIs, okay? Or a group of contractors. I can choose a group. I can say that for the project root, I want them to be read-only. I want to give them access then to, as I go through, see maybe just, I want them to be able to read and write to the field reports because they're going to need to be able to upload new photos for me. I want them to be able to read and write to our RFI folder, and I want them to be able to just read only, so that'll inherit from the parent for the Sheets folder. And for specs, maybe I want to hide that. I don't know why you would hide specs from the contractor, but I can hide an entire folder. One of the reasons that we see a lot of people using this is that they will make a single project and it'll have bid set folders. So it'll have the bid set documentation and it'll have a folder for each contractor who's bidding on that project. The folder that they're doing the bidding on will have read, write, and delete privileges so that they can create new folders, they can upload any files that they have that are related to the bid, if they've got submittals they want to approve, things of that sort. And then every other folder is hidden from them. So they pick just the contractor who needs access to that folder. They give them access to see everything in that folder. And then all of the other contractor folders get hidden from that contractor, and then they set the next contractor up. So they can easily share the bid set with everybody without having to do a lot of work. Another way that we see sharing happening, so we have the folder permissions, and the folder permissions are a great way to share information with just the people who need to have them. Another way we see this sharing going on is right here within the Sheets. So they'll take individual files. They will right-click on the file, and they will share a link to the file. So rather than having an FTP site, you can share a link to an individual file. Someone needs just the roof plan on the north side. You can require a password if you want, and you can even expire the link after 24 hours to get that additional security and flatten all of the markups on it so that no one can change the markups. At that point, I'm just going to require a password for this one. Click OK, and now here's that link. Anyone I shared it with who had the password could download a copy of that file. So very easy to share information with projects. And as I mentioned, we'll come back into projects once we get into Studio Prime. So with that, I'm going to leave. I'm going to switch users now. We're going to get into Studio Prime. And to do that, I'm first going to switch users. And note that I'm not actually changing anything about the way that I access Studio. So it's the same Studio dialog box here that I would use to log into Studio normally. I'm just using a different login here for our Studio Prime. And I'm going to briefly talk to you about the different Studio editions as we get into Studio Prime. So what you just saw with Studio Sessions and Studio Projects is called Studio. It comes for free with every copy of Review that you buy, hosted on the cloud. There's no user account management, but you get a lot of security, triply redundant servers with high levels of encryption. And you get all of the security settings that you saw for projects and additional security settings I didn't show for sessions. So there's a lot of security built right in. and a lot of control, but for some people it's not the right level of control, and that's where the next Studio Edition comes in. That's Studio Prime. And Studio Prime gives you user account management for every one of your members. So for example, employees at your organization would be great people to invite to be members. But as well, management at a basic level in terms of who else outside of your organization accesses your studio sessions and projects. And we'll talk about that as I get into the Studio Prime portal where you can control that. It also gives you control over the sessions and projects that your members create. So anyone who's a member of your Studio Prime, you would then be able to control their sessions, control their projects, and really dig into the settings there and set those for those individual sessions and projects. Studio Prime also comes with access to an API to Bluebeam Studio that would allow you to, for example, sync your studio project with your existing document management system or with a local network drive so that you can automatically back up your files on a regular basis to a local network drive. Same thing, it would allow you to, for example, create a studio session from SharePoint or another document management system you use. With just a couple of clicks. So you've got API access there with the Studio Prime. And then Studio Prime allows you to automate workflows. And we'll talk about this a bit today because the folder automations that we use to automate workflows are a big game changer when it comes to the way that you work with your PDFs and frankly your Word documents, DWGs, and a variety of other file types. Finally, there's Studio Enterprise. Now, Studio and Studio Prime are hosted in the cloud, but for those of you who don't want to host in the cloud, you want to host on-premise behind your firewall on a local network, you can totally do that with Studio Enterprise. You get user account management and sessions and projects management without the API access and automated workflows, but you also get Active Directory integration. So there's a lot of opportunity there. If you like what you see today, but you don't want to host it on the cloud, do reach out to the PPI group and ask them for more information on Studio Enterprise. With that, I'm going to jump back into Review, and I'm going to open a web tab within Review. For those of you who haven't done this, it's just a right-click in the workspace or a right-click on the document tab if you have a document open. Opens up the web in Review. Now again, you can do this from any browser, but I'm going to go to studio.bluebeam.com. There we go. And this is the Studio Prime portal. Okay. And here I'm going to add a login as the IT admin. And that allows us, the IT admin is actually the owner of this Studio Prime account, and we'll have full access to all the functionality. Now the Studio Prime account is great because the Studio Prime portal really allows us to see everything that's going on in Studio for all of our users. So what we have is we have a brief overview of the activity in the last several days, as well as our recently created projects and sessions in our Studio Prime account. And then we've got a variety of different cards that give us just a general overview of what's available in them, but as we click on them, we get additional information. Right off the bat, users is where we manage all of our members, collaborators, and any pending invites that we have, as well as anyone who's been blocked from participating in our Studio Prime account. Okay. Now members, as I mentioned, typically people who work within your organization. The concept being you get full control over their Studio Prime account, so if they don't work for your company, they may not want to become a member. Now within here, we can disable a member's account and we can actually take them completely offline. So if you have an employee who leaves your company, you can disable their access to Studio as a whole. We can also just revoke their access to our Studio Prime account. Kick them out of the Studio Prime account and say you've got to do your work on your own. But we can also then set them as an admin. And if we were to set them as an admin, they'd have the same ability to manage users, projects, and sessions that we do as the owner. Okay. And clicking on a member, just clicking one here, shows us everything that that member is currently working on. The projects they own, the projects they're attending, the sessions they own, and the sessions they've attended. Now, from members, we move on to our collaborators, and collaborators, you'll notice we have a lot less control over. We can block them or we can unblock them. And collaborators then are typically the people we work with outside our organization. The contracting firm, if we're an architecture firm, maybe there are other consultants that we work with. And it's very easy for us to take them out if they shouldn't be working on our projects and sessions. So we can limit that access, which is really powerful. When we click on them, you'll notice that all we see is the projects that they attend and the sessions that they attend that are part of our Studio Prime. And that's because, again, we're not getting full visibility into their studio activity. We're just seeing what they do in relation to our organization. Now, when I click the invite button here, you'll notice I've got the ability to invite new members, and you can do that with a CSV contact list or just type in an email address and give them a welcome invitation. And that gets them into the Studio Prime portal as a member. Coming back home, from users, I want to drop down into Insights. We'll go into projects. Actually, let's do projects and sessions first, and then I'll jump into Insights for you. So here in projects, these are all of the projects that are currently being owned and operated here in our Studio Prime account. Sessions has the same look to it. I'll show it briefly in just a second. But let's say that I want to come into this Bluebeam Airport project and see what's been done on it recently. As I come into my project detail, I can see who's attended it, what documents have been uploaded to it in the folder structure. So as I click through, you'll notice I've got a variety of folders, and I can click into my Sheets folder and see all of the sheets that have been uploaded here. If there was, for example, a sheet that shouldn't have been uploaded, it's confidential, it can't go up on the cloud, I could click right here to view and review, jump into that project, right-click, and delete that file, immediately take it out. As the admin, I have full control over this project. Now, in addition to the documents and attendees, we've got the ability to transfer ownership, so I can make this project someone else's project and give them full control of it. I can generate a report on everything that's been done on this project straight from this page. I can restrict our attendees by email address. You'll notice the checkbox is there, so it's currently turned on. If I clicked it, it would unrestrict, and then anyone who had the invitation link or had the Studio project idea could jump into that project. Always good to have it on. Some employees like to turn it off, so it's nice to be able to turn that on with a single click here. And then I could delete the project. So if I know the project's over and the project manager just didn't get around to deleting it, but we know that we've got everything's been downloaded, it's all been backed up, I could just delete the project from here. Now I mentioned that sessions works the same, so you'll notice here's my sessions. I've got one active session at this moment, and you'll notice it's got the same settings here, attendees and documents. Now Insights is really powerful. Insights allows us to report on our projects, our sessions, and our users, and it gives us a lot of opportunity with that. So I can select a specific project or do all of our projects. I can choose activity, so everything that's been done, just the shared links for that project, so what's being shared externally, or as a download link, or get statistics on the project, so just a very high-level look. And I can choose a date range. Do I want all of the activity for the last 30 days, the last year, the last month? I can set that up as I want. Same thing, I've got sessions here, so I can select any one of my sessions, and again, choose my activity or statistics. No shared links in sessions, so it's not a report there. The one I want to show you, though, is users, and I want to show you for a member, because what ends up happening is that for members, we get reporting on everything they do in Studio, not just here in our Studio Prime account, but across the Studio platform, which is really cool. And I can see their activity, their internal participation, so just what they do on my Studio Prime, external participation, just what they do outside of my Studio Prime, or statistics. Activity covers it all, though. So I'm going to do a custom range. We're going to start here. Our start date, we'll do May 1st, and we will go through October 31st. It'll allow me to apply this custom range even though it's out in the future, because it's just going to look at that date range. I'm going to click go. It's going to run our report for us, and it pulls up all the information, everything that's been done by itadmin@example.com across projects, across sessions, and it's going to put it all into an easy to navigate report here. We are going to give it just a second to think. Just a second to think. And here we go. We've got our report. Clearly, I, as IT admin, and my colleagues who have logged in as IT admin, have done a lot in the last several months because it took so long to run the report. At any point, I can run down. I see exactly what project or session it was done in. I've got the project ID. I've got what they did. I've got that information there, and then I can jump back up to the top at any point to run a new report, or I can take this report out and export it as a CSV so that I've got it reported outside of the Prime portal. Now, I mentioned to you integrations earlier, that Studio API that allows you to integrate, for example, a document management system. So as I look here, this particular API plugin that has been built allows users to push documents to Bluebeam Studio from an internal document management system. There are plugins coming out already. I know Field Lens currently has a plugin from Bluebeam Studio and Field Lens, and I know that there's a lot in development, and you'll see a lot more coming in the months to come. You could also become a developer yourself and create your own plugin for your organization that allows you to do that kind of integration. There's a website, actually, let me, just going to type it down here, developers.bluebeam.com, and it's a little hard to see down there, but developers.bluebeam.com. If you have any interest in the API, that's a great place to go to learn more about it. And of course, you can reach out to the PPI group, and they'd be happy to give you that link and that information. Now finally here, I'm coming into our folder automations, and this is where I want to focus the rest of our time. I know we've got just about 11 minutes left, but there's a lot of cool stuff that we're doing with folder automations. And what folder automations allows us to do is to automate a lot of our commonly done processes so that we don't have to do them. So being able to automate our estimation prep on our PDFs, converting our specifications to Word, converting our DWGs to PDF for using our building collaboration, archiving our PDFs, and prepping submittals for review. So I'm going to come into my Bluebeam Airport project, and I'm going to upload a couple of files that are going to process in the background as I show you the different automations related to them. So here in my airport project folder here, I've got a DWG folder, so I'm going to upload a file there. So coming into my demo files, I've got my AutoCAD files here. And I'm going to take my Valley College project construction plan, and I'm just going to upload that there. Now, in addition to that one, I'm also going to come into my automations. And what I've got here in my automations, I've got to convert to PDF. I'm going to upload a Word document here. So coming back over into my specs. Okay, I've got a Word document here for 033000 concrete, so I'm going to upload that to my convert to PDF there. And then another one that I'm going to do here, I'm going to come into my submittals, and I'm going to come through, and in my new submittal folder, I'm going to upload a submittal as well. So let's come into my submittals here. Where did my submittals go? And of course, I can't find it. Here we go. Airport project submittals. Okay. And let's do our example submittal here. So I've uploaded that. And it looks like I've got a lighting submittal already in there, but we'll do my submittal example and upload that. So while Studio is processing in the background on the cloud all of those files that I just uploaded, let me show you what's actually being done with those different files. And the first one I'm going to show you is that DWG conversion we're doing. Okay. So the great thing about the folder automations is we can do automations on PDFs or on other file types. So we've got the opportunity to do Word, image, PDF, PostScript, Excel, or DWG. And the automation that we can do here, we choose a folder as our input folder. We can include the subfolders if we'd like, and we assign it to our projects. And then we choose when we want to start processing our files. So we can do it whenever a file is added to a folder or whenever a file is checked back into that folder. And then we can include a description that helps people understand what that automation does if they're looking here. Okay. And then we go through and we choose the file type, and let's say that we pick, for example, a DWG, as in the example here. The first thing that it does is it converts that DWG to PDF, and it asks us what we want to do as we convert it. So are we transferring our SHX fonts to searchable text? What are we plotting? Do we have any line merges we want to use, plot style tables? Are we transferring hyperlinks and layers? So we've got a lot of opportunities here to get exactly the conversion that we're looking for. And then we can take actions on that document. So for example, right now, we're adding a confidential stamp in the lower right-hand corner to this DWG. Then we're importing some custom columns, so responsibility column, so that as we review this document, we can assign responsibilities and make tasks lists. And then we're flattening any existing markups and the stamp that we just added to the page into the PDF content, just so that we don't have any markups that appear when someone opens this file. And then we're outputting this to our sheet output. So let's come into my automations. I've got a sheet output folder here, and we'll give it just a second to open up. And you'll see now that I've got a PDF of that DWG file. Now, I don't have AutoCAD on my computer, but I didn't need AutoCAD on my computer because that processing is being done on the cloud. So here we go. Based on my plot settings and everything, I have got exactly what came out of this document here. It's got the confidential stamp, and it plotted based on the layout that I've got set up for that DWG. Okay. So that's based up here on the layouts and the plot style tables that we've chosen. Now, the next one I want to talk about is that submittal. This one is one, for those of you who have had to review submittals and prep submittals for review, is a huge time saver. So here we go. I'm going to choose the submittal prep. Now, this is done on the PDF rather than on another file type. So rather than uploading a bunch of DWGs, having them automatically converted to PDF, I'm taking an existing PDF, and what I'm doing here with the PDF is I am inserting a cover sheet template, and I'm reducing the file size so that it's a smaller PDF that's easier to work with up in the cloud. I'm putting that in my submittals for review folder. So coming back into our submittals folder, we have our for review folder, and when I double click on that, you'll notice here's my submittal example, and right at the top here, I have my submittal example here. So it's got some nice stamps, it's got our substitution requests. This particular submittal already had the cover page because it's an example that's already filled out, but if it didn't, I just threw the cover page on there without having to do anything. The process for doing that manually here in review involves coming over here, right-clicking. If it were checked out, I would right-click. I would have this option to insert pages. I would insert my template to the top, and then I would move on to the next one. That took almost no time at all to do with the automation. It's a huge time saver when you're dealing with tens of hundreds of submittals for a project. Now, the final one I'm going to point out is that word conversion. Again, just because sometimes it's nice not to have to convert your Word documents. And again, the settings are a little different when you're converting from Word to PDF. They're smaller, but again, it's that conversion process. Now, at the moment, actually, I don't have any actions applied. It's just a Word to PDF conversion. And what you'll notice is even if all we're doing is converting and putting into our output files, we can easily pick our PDF, and here we go. We've got that PDF already converted for us. So I'm going to head back here and come on out and close out of folder automations. Now, as I mentioned, there were several others in here. For example, estimation prep just adds, takes existing PDFs and adds in the custom columns that allow them to do materials and formulas. So real easy to do, upload a sheet and automatically have it come through with custom columns. There's a lot of other options here. So as you come through, you'll notice that we can create some archivable PDF reports. We can delete pages, export form data, export markups, so we get those markups to import on another page. We can extract our pages, flatten markups, add headers and footers, import custom columns, as you see here. Insert blank pages if we need them. Of course, the pages like the template that we have with insert pages. Process colors, reduce file sizes, repair PDFs, reverse our pages, rotate them, save them as that PDFA, which is an archivable file format, and then stamp and unflatten PDFs. So there's a lot of options for how we work with these PDFs and the things that we can do with them. And very easy to set them up. As I mentioned, like we can choose stamp. We just choose a stamp from our project folder that's uploaded. So here are my resources. I did have a stamp, but I don't see it there now, but we could throw on a stamp, choose the anchor point. Notice as I move this, so I take my anchor point to upper left, it moves it there. As I increase the X offset, you'll notice it moves it there, so it's really easy to see exactly where it's going to show up on that page. So it's very straightforward, easy to use, and once you set up these automations, anyone with access to that project will be able to drop a file into the folder and it will automatically process it for them. All you have to do is tell them what folder to drop it in and what it's going to do, and they're off to the races. So that is the Studio Prime portal. Okay. So as I mentioned, we talked through Studio Prime, the user management, session and project management, Studio Insights, those folder automations, and the Studio API. I do want to thank you all so much for coming out today. It was great to have you all on the line. And we look forward to, I know the PPI group looks forward to hearing from you, and we too here at Bluebeam look forward to hearing from you and all the great things that you guys are going to do, all the ways that you're going to speed up your workflows and increase your collaboration using the Bluebeam Studio platform and Bluebeam Review. For more information, please reach out to the PPI group at info@theppigroup.com. Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you so much to the PPI group, and thank you so much to everyone who came. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Meredith.